Collectivism is not only dangerous in politics and economics, psychologically, it invites the individual to stand outside himself, imagine an abstract tribunal called society, and ask how he appears before it. To act confidently, you must retain contact with the one scale of value to which you actually have direct access, your own. You can listen to another man, observe his conduct, hear what he says, and make intelligent conjectures about him, but you cannot climb inside his consciousness and inspect his value scale. This is why economists look to demonstrated preference. We infer preference from actual choice rather than pretend an outside observer can scientifically measure another person's psychic utility. The neurotic habit of continually asking, how am I occurring in his mind? What does she think I am? What would the room say about me? Is, in a sense, an attempted exercise at impossible interpersonal utility measurement. You cease attending to reality, meaning your own perception and what you want to say, and construct an imaginary social welfare function inside your skull. You appoint yourself surveyor of everybody's inner life, turn them into a jury, and make yourself the defendant before this tribunal you invented. And this is what the left wants to pass off as empathy. Everyone should refuse to play that game, and in doing so, demonstrate genuine humility, not the groveling sort that says, everyone else's judgment must outrank mine, but epistemic humility. I do not know what's in your head unless you tell me or demonstrate it, and even then, my knowledge is limited. Therefore, I can stop compulsively simulating you and return to my perception, choice, and action. That's not narcissism. It is ceasing to claim an omniscience no one has. Self-consciousness is the state collectivists want everyone to inhabit. It's like trying to have your soul leave your body and enter your perceived audience's body. But that's impossible. One cannot be alienated from oneself. All that is happening is you are imagining the other person's perspective. It's fantasy. Sympathy is admirable. Kindness is admirable. But neither produces a mystical social mind. Yet such a hive mind would have to exist for there to be a collective plan without particular people ultimately imposing it. This is the fantasy you see most explicitly with anarcho-communism, where collective coordination is supposed to occur without anyone exercising authority over anyone else. Caring is not the problem. The error is in treating it as if it grants knowledge of society's will and therefore political authority over others. But the psychological damage begins before political coercion. The self-conscious person sands down the edges of his personality in anticipation of the audience, becoming less peculiar, less spontaneous, less funny, less intense, less opinionated, just less alive. Whatever might produce friction with the imagined group gets suppressed before anyone even responded to it. He conforms not just to actual demands, but to demands he has guessed might exist. A personality cannot fully emerge under continuous self-surveillance. You discover yourself partly by allowing yourself to pursue strange interests, dislike what others like, become fascinated by what others ignore, and follow thoughts without knowing their destination in advance. Confidence gives those features room to emerge. Without it, the person is flattened towards the perceived average. This is not just a question of which social arrangement produces better aggregate outcomes. The individual himself is harmed. A person who perpetually monitors himself through an imagined audience loses contact with his own judgment, emotions, preferences, and personality. Instead of perceiving, he watches himself perceive. Instead of speaking, he watches himself speak. Instead of enjoying himself, he checks whether he appears to be enjoying himself correctly. The first tragedy is not that society loses his originality. It is that he loses access to it himself. And that is not to downplay the economic or social harm. As a Rothbardian, I analyze intervention not as the neutral implementation of a collective will, but as the alteration of the choices of concrete people by other concrete people. With voluntary exchange, both parties demonstrate that they expect to gain. With coercive intervention, one group's preferred course is frustrated so another can be imposed. One cannot scientifically add those gains and losses and announce social utility has risen. There is no objective unit of utility we can count. Likewise, no public sector mechanically expresses our wants. No political allocation is neutral, and all political allocation is, by definition, arbitrary. That does not mean political decisions are random or whimsical. A bureaucrat may have elaborate principles. A socialist planner may be fanatically consistent. But the imposed allocation does not possess the market's criterion. It is not economizing according to demonstrated preferences. It is pursuing particular subjective values, those of the bureaucrat or politician. It substitutes the administrator's ranking of things for the rankings people would reveal through their own property and exchange. That's why on the rare occasion I bother to debate a socialist, I usually end up telling them that what they really want is for themselves or for someone who thinks like them to wield political power. If I'm debating a guy named John, he wants the Johnocracy. If it's a girl named Jane, she wants the Janeocracy. They want arbitrary power used in the particular way that appeals to them. People, especially on the left, like to characterize collectivism as warm and communal, and individualism as cold and rugged, when genuine connection actually requires enough confidence to emerge as yourself. If I flatten my personality towards what I imagine the group will accept, then you do not really know me, and I cannot clearly know what I want from you either. Friendship, romance, conversation, community, and even the division of labor work because distinct people bring different personalities, judgments, tastes, abilities, and desires into relation with one another. Groups should be shaped by individuals relating to one another, not by individuals sanding themselves down into generic social types. Individualism lets me say, this is who I am, I like you, I want to be here, let's do this together. Collectivist self-consciousness turns that into an audition. What should a person like me say here? What does the group require? Am I sufficiently acceptable? The first permits real acceptance because there is actually someone there to accept. The second produces conformity without intimacy. The person who lives his life as an audition gradually becomes whatever he believes the judges will approve. This is one of collectivism's most intimate forms of destruction. It does not merely demand conformity in public doctrine, it produces conformity in temperament. The person speaks in the approved register, displays the approved emotions, cultivates the approved interests, and suppresses whatever seems too idiosyncratic to survive the social filter. Eventually, he may no longer experience this as censorship because the censor has been internalized. He has become his own communist committee. Liberty is the highest political end, but liberty is not man's highest end as such. Different individuals possess different hierarchies of ends, and a free society permits each to pursue his own conception of happiness. Confidence becomes possible when a man stops trying to abolish the fact of his own separate consciousness. Economically, he must choose because only he possesses his value scale. Epistemologically, he must judge because he cannot possess everyone else's mind. Morally, he is a self-owner rather than raw material for a collective project. Politically, no supposed social consciousness can legitimately supersede him. Psychologically, once he stops inhabiting the phantom audience and rehearsing its past and future judgments, his attention becomes available again for the present world immediately in front of him. Individualism does not produce generic, isolated atoms. That's collectivism. Collectivism produces generic people. Individualism produces distinct people who can then genuinely associate with one another. The collectivist lie is dissolve yourself into the whole and you will finally belong. The individualist discovery is the reverse. Once you cease trying to dissolve yourself, you become capable of genuinely belonging to other people.